All right, everyone. So Eric Bischoff talked about Raw going to 2 hours. Here's what he had to say in his show, 83 Weeks. That 2 hours is going to feel like 7 minutes. After having had to sit through 3 hours of Monday Night Raw for how many years now, you're going to watch Raw, and those first 2 hours are going to go by so fast. You're going to feel like, what the hell? Where's the rest of the show? That's a good thing. It's good for talent. It's good for production. It's great for the audience. I think stories will be able to pick up more momentum because so much is diluted in 3 hours. Now, Wrestling Inc. added more because that's where we just read the transcript. This is what they added. Bischoff mentioned that Raw needs to be filled with A stories, like main events, to B stories, and even C storylines, but with its current 3 hours, he still thinks there's a lot of time left, and any storyline would become diluted. He said with the change, it's going to allow WWE's creative time to gas up and tighten up their stories, becoming even more disciplined. So this is basically what we've been saying, and listen, Eric Bischoff, take it way more from him than from me because this guy knows what he's talking about. But I love the move to 2 hours. I actually don't think with wrestling that more is always better. I don't think that we need to see 3 hour Raws. I don't think we need to see fill the void of wrestling as much as possible. I think part of the beauty of wrestling is the kind of that gap in between where we don't see wrestling. I think people need a little bit of a break. You don't want to get to a point where it's like a full-time job basically keeping up with wrestling to try to track all these storylines and everything that's going on. Give us 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And the beauty of Netflix is that they're going to be able to go as long as they want. So on days that they can fill 3 hours, go ahead and fill the three, right? Fill 3 hours. We don't care. Fill the three, but don't have it drag. And I think, and it's not to say that Raw was like terrible at 3 hours. It wasn't. It just felt like there's a lot of filler sometimes in terms of like, let's just have these guys give a promo, or let's have this kind of squash match, or this match between these two groups of people. You know what I mean? It's like, let's just add this in, and it's not even a bad match. It's not even a bad story, but it's just like, well, we didn't need to see that. We're kind of waiting for something else. And it's a double-edged sword because on one hand, it is the beauty of the 3 hours and kind of forcing WWE to fill 3 hours is that they're giving people chances that maybe they wouldn't have, right? Like you're getting to see new people, new faces because they're like, well, we have to fill 3 hours. Whereas if you go to 2 hours, that may become less and less. But then the other end of that sword is you're seeing some of the people who, maybe wouldn't have got that push before, but sometimes it's in circumstances that don't do them any favors. It's like, oh, this guy was put onto Raw for a match in which, he cuts a promo, someone else comes out, gets pissed at him, they fight. Okay, now there's a match later tonight between the two. The match happens, and the guy gets his butt kicked in 10 seconds, and then the match is over, and that was just all kind of, you know, 2 segments of filler, and it didn't do anything for his character. In the eyes of the WWE audience, we think he stinks now because you just basically had him do a squash match on live TV. You made him look like an idiot. So I think that's the sword, the double-edged sword is, yes, you're able to put more people on TV, but if you're not putting them in places they can succeed, then it's not going to work well. I think the best example of this is if you go back right before the Attitude Era, during one of the times when WWE, that, what is it, like 96, like what is it, the early, like 95, 96, I think 94, I don't know exactly, so put in the comments if you know exactly, but this was the time period before, I don't know how long it stretched, I just know when the Attitude Era started, of a time when this was WWE at kind of a low point, right? This is when the ability for things to pick up for wrestling before that, right? This is why WCW was able to get the lead they did, was because WWE had been in this bad spot for so long. If you go back and look at that roster that they had, it wasn't the roster that was the problem. I mean, you had guys, right, that became stars in the Attitude Era that were still on that roster at that time. Same with WCW. There was people that became stars in WCW or in WWE that were there at WCW before it really took off, and they weren't even main event really attractions. It's about in the, like, how were they put, right? How were they creatively put? What was the storylines they were a part of? And, like Kane or guys like Kane, I think he was like a dentist or something like that. And it's like, sure, you're giving Glenn Jacobs a chance on TV, but you're putting him in as the dentist, okay? And it's like, all right, well, he's not going to succeed as that, regardless. And so I think this is why it's such a good idea. Go to 2 hours with the ability once Netflix starts where you could really go as long as you want. It's flexible. But go to 2 hours as kind of that minimum, and then you need to build more. You can, if 2 hours is good, then you just end the show. And the beauty of it is that you could still find that time for these people, incorporate them into other storylines, get them going. Make sure that every storyline you're putting out there, instead of having a character go on every week and having it be some stupid squash match, to fill the 3 hours, have them go on once a month and have it be a really good, well told match and start to build kind of some steam behind that character until they could really take off. Utilize NXT if you can. I don't know. You see superstars going back and forth from NXT. Utilize that to kind of get people who are already on the main roster, right? Allow them to build up some of these NXT guys, and also use it to build up some of the underused talent on the main roster. So it's just, this is just my thoughts on it. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm busy, trying to watch football and other things, but I just think 2 hours is a perfect amount of time to keep fans interested. And if you have interesting storylines that go by, past 2 hours, well, when Netflix starts, you could still do it without having to commit every week to 3 hours. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next.